Welcome to Raging Recaps. Sit back, relax, grab a drink as we tell you some of our stories.
Evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Raging Recaps. Got Dave here with us.
Hey team, how we going?
Dave plays Zim in our Waterdeep campaign, and myself, Jeremy, I play Ren in our Thursday night campaigns. A couple of quick announcements before we get to our real juicy content. Firstly, help us get to 150 followers and you'll be in the draw for a fantastic giveaway with some goodies from one of our fantastic sponsors. Secondly, we do have merch now available, merchandise. We have shirts, hats, face masks. Imagine wearing a raging face mask. I think there's nothing better than that. But yeah, it's all there, and you can even design your own to suit. Find it at ragingrolls.com and follow the links to our store. And Dave, you had a few announcements also.
Yeah, look, Raging Rolls, we're big supporters of Beyond Blue. I've noticed actually on social media a lot lately that people are kind of willing to talk a little bit more about their mental health. And I think I'm a big fan of this change. I think that's really cool that, especially in the current environment, people are thinking about this a little bit more. So if you're someone who's feeling a little bit not yourself lately, maybe, just feeling a little bit different, that's totally fine. It's totally normal to feel like that some days. But if you're feeling like you need to have a chat to someone, especially in the current environment, then reach out, get in contact with some legends like the Beyond Blue crew, and feel free to talk it through them because, it doesn't always have to feel like this is how you're feeling. To kind of highlight that a little bit more, October is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're all for getting in our steps, taking care of our body, getting the standing desk happening. But it's not just one-sided, right? You've got to take care of your mental health as well. So this October, if you want to spend a little time reflecting about your mental health, then that's a fantastic idea. And again, we've got to take care of ourselves and those around us. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It is pretty average times we're in. And to further support Beyond Blue and for more awareness around this, we are running a bit of a fundraiser through October with a couple of sponsors. So all campaign sessions through October, Mental Health Awareness Month. Anytime a player rolls a natural 20, our fantastic sponsor Geekdom from geekdom.shop will be also donating $20 to the cause. However, anytime a player rolls a natural 1, that player will cough up $20 out of their own pocket to the same cause.
They will gladly. That'll be the silver lining on any Nat 1, right? That'll be the silver lining on a Nat 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Be like, oh, Nat 1, but it's okay.
But it's okay.
And to further raise funds and for Beyond Blue, we're also running a silent auction with some fantastic gear from Miniature Hub, from miniaturehub.com.au. Look out for that coming soon. Hit our socials. Find us from facebook.com/ragingrolls is the main channel, but also everywhere else. For more details on that, exactly when that auction will be and what is up for grabs. And I think, just very quick and lastly, it is the last couple of days of Twitch's September, which is where you can get yourself a bit of a discount on any subscription you'd make to Raging Rolls or any Twitch streamer of your choice. Just as a bit of an extra bonus for Raging Rolls viewers, any subscribers that wish to subscribe, obviously, we'll be donating a big chunk of that towards Beyond Blue directly. So support us, You support mental health awareness, you support Beyond Blue, you support a whole range of things with your subscription. And there's no better time to do it than September.
Agreed. Agreed.
On to the juicy bits. Let's just hit that transition button and wrong button. Let's have a look back on all things that was session 13 of Waterdeep Dragonheist, which we've dubbed Collateral Damage. It was a doozy, but let's take it back to the beginning of that session, Dave. When, if I recall correctly, we'll back at the Winchester trying to figure out where we go next, whether we take on, was it the Harpers or Lord Castlelanta, or Zentarum, or Bragendarth.
Yeah. A little bit of an idea, right? Like we just went from this sort of zone where we were kind of stuck 2 weeks ago, not really sure where the next step would be, to suddenly having it kind of handed to us. Hey, there's a bunch of options now, and I think just this idea that we kind of had a little bit of a think, kind of got together, and I don't know if it was a totally unanimous initially, but we got there eventually, and were able to work out what we were doing.
Oh, it has just occurred to me, this big chunk of that whole experience and trying to track down the Dragondarth head honchos. We ended up at the Yawning Portal. Yeah. Yep. Now, you'll have to help me out here because I was trying to deal with all sorts of streaming issues at the time. But without realizing it, Ren was sent in to try and do something in this house, and I had to try and wing it a little bit. What was the ask there? Remind me.
I love that. I kind of feel bad for you, I'm not going to lie. The effort that you were going to behind the scenes to get us sorted, and then we kind of gave you the bum steer on that one. But Ren is our the team flirt. And also with the ranger capabilities, we thought getting in there, being a little bit stealthy, getting it over, getting her to be able to go in and kind of meet up and find out who we're going to go and chat to. I think did a pretty good job. It was a very interesting setting, being inside the Yawning Portal, and trying to work out how to speak to the Tavern Keep, and then get upstairs and find the right room and who you're going to chat to, and not knowing. And I think you did a fantastic job. It
was a bit of a shambles, to be honest. I was I felt like I was absolutely winging it. And one of the things I as Ren was caught up on is trying to deceive the bartender when he was we were trying to question him if he'd heard anything about the death of Xanathar, and we were counter question, and I couldn't lie to it. I did. tried and following that though, I was a bit stuck on what to do. Ren was not sure what to do next, so I thought I'd just get I was aiming to get a private booth where we could scope out the situation from a quiet area. Ended up getting a private room, like a room to stay in.
Yeah.
Which meant I was a bit stuck.
Which I'm not going to lie, there was a little the DM of Doom dropped in our little bit of a teaser that kind of just lucky to pick up when he gave us how many doors down and how many times he kind of traveled, right? And it was one of the few notes that I picked up on. He's just kind of describing. I was like, why would he say that? Why would he say that? And then when we started looking for the doors, and the doors didn't tell us where we were going, and the numbers were all weird, I was like, So it was a good little grab. And look, I mean, having that room in the end worked out to be well. I think I would have rathered when we actually spoke to the Lord Rorus that maybe we'd been able to get inside of his room, or maybe we were able to have a more private conversation with him, or maybe he had pants on. There was a number of things I would have wished for in that conversation, right? Yeah. So, but I think that I love the flavour of it, right? Like, nothing's ever what you expect it's going to be, and I think DM of Doom and the team have done well to kind of just keep rolling on that, make it entertaining.
Do you think, I was thinking about this afterwards, the fact that, was that room, the hallways and things, a proper puzzle, or were we just struggling to picture it?
No, I think there was a puzzle in there. I mean, the door numbers were kind of magical or not clear, and whether or not it was a puzzle as such, it was definitely something that if we hadn't been paying attention, DM or Doom, Robin would have definitely kind of made us work for it. Definitely made us work for it.
Absolutely. But then we got some information about where to go next for this, the Eye of Galore, the Stone of Galore, the Eye Stone for that stone. Mm-hmm. Bit weird. To head back to the docks, which was a nice bit of intel. Happy to take that on. So then at that point, we had a good indication where at least the next two stones were. We think that Castellanta has one, and then the Dragondarth has one. That was right, I think, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Head to the docks we did, but it wasn't as easy as getting straight to the docks and on board a ship and just bashing the snot out of
It would have been fantastic, right?
Dragondarth, sorry. Would have been amazing.
Yeah, just hasting up Beowulf so he could go and smash some things again, or maybe giving Red the double attack capabilities. It would have been, beautiful, but wasn't quite that simple.
Wasn't quite
It's-
that simple.
No, had a small issue just arrive in the form of some pretty hectic-looking stone axe beak-looking dudes on their birds that kind of kept going by, and then a troop of orcs rocked up with a semi-surreal, I don't know, magical. I don't know, how would you describe the leader? He seemed a bit over the top compared to everyone else, right?
A little bit over the top, but just a boss. He was commanding presence, but without
Yeah,
attitude. He didn't have to say anything. We all knew he was the boss. He knew he was the boss. He commanded something that was a bit throwing us off at first. I think was all like, oh my god, there's just so many of them there. Destroy them all. Without realizing just perhaps those regular orcs, just fell pretty easily, comparatively. Speaking of those crazy birds with the axe heads, the first thing that popped in my head when Dan and Doom was describing that was chocobos from Final Fantasy. I'm not sure if you remember those kind of things.
I was never a Final Fantasy player. Never a Final Fantasy player.
Just guys running around on basically ostriches or chickens. But the picture he showed for it, the image for it looked pretty badass with the massive axe face beaks.
Dan from the chat has told us that they're called a axe beak. Love it. Thanks, Dan.
Very descriptive, pretty accurate.
Very descriptive. Yeah. Not the other thing. Not the other thing, Dan. The axe beak.
But
and look, I thought there was going to be like a little bit of a fight with them, and as they went charging through, I was like, But then, they looked pretty fierce, so I was kind of happy with the fight we got access to.
Yeah, interesting fight. This opened up a lot of Ren's backstory with these orcs coming into town and trying to muscle in on the power gap in the underworld there. Underworld.
So maybe for anyone who hasn't joined the stream previously, or maybe doesn't know heaps about Ren, do you want to introduce Ren for us and tell us a little bit about the backstory that kind of got unraveled for us?
Yeah, Ren's an elf ranger with she has this connection with an orc, I guess, group called the Azorgol's Hand, who is responsible for pretty much making her life misery. She, for reasons not yet known, the guy that was looking after Ren and brought her up as a kid was killed by these guys. And she's just out for revenge, trying to understand why and why they were sought out, and why this guy was killed. So I am excited to see how that pans out. It seems as though there's a lot more being introduced very quickly into Ren's story. And when she saw these guys, she was hell bent on just trying to get some payback straight away.
Yeah. Looks like we just picked up a new follow from Joey Jr. on the stream.
Fantastic.
Joey.
Thanks, Joey.
And look, I think that's one of the things that we've kind of gotten to a point now where some of the backstories are coming through quite nicely and opening up for us, which is really cool. Really cool.
It really is.
Now, there was a little bit Mark, who plays Claymore, right? He was a little bit keen on how hard he went on the big bad, and kind of wanted to know if this was the one, this was the big bad for your storyline. And I think that before the boss kind of escalated and took on the secondary stage, he was kind of keen to go a little bit ape and get a little bit crazy.
Yeah, you didn't want to hold person or grapple him or something like that.
Yeah. Wanted to get into it full on.
In hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. That would have been a great move. But,
it would have been fantastic. Mind you, how does something like grapple work if the person you're grappling turns to liquid? I'm not sure.
Probably not very well.
I'm not sure what happens there, right? It's kind of like pouring through a sieve.
Yeah, probably wouldn't work out too well. But, as luck would have it for the orc leader, name not yet known, he wasn't the particular guy that I was after. or that Ren was after, and it was what Ren found interesting about that whole encounter was that there was only one of like the 8 or so orcs there that had the symbol of Zorgol with them. This guy wasn't so much the one that murdered Ren's guardian, but was definitely connected.
Yeah, cool. And I was just like, I think it's interesting, and I like the idea that we've got this supernatural side of the big bad, not just some green orcs running around, and we're going to fight some green orcs. And I like the idea that your backstory and Ren's kind of arc as we get into it will have some cool supernatural pieces attached to it as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how it all pans out. There's a lot more to uncover about her backstory and different names of people, and even further back than this. If it happens, right, it's not necessarily something which we need to open up, but if it does, then it does, and it may be all connected. I'm not yet sure.
Yeah.
But with the orc army, also brought with it the start of a whole bunch of damage.
Yeah.
So we'd all just leveled up to level 5 shortly before, like last session or something, session before. Maybe. And I think Zim was pretty keen to get things tested out and open her up, so to speak.
That's it. Well, so here's the go, right? So we get this this previous session. We've got the Beholder in front of us. We're all leveled up to level 5. I've got the magic sexy fireball card in my pocket, just waiting to cast that bad boy. And I cast haste instead. I'm like, team player, let's get haste on the crazy beowulf. It's going to be able to make a mess of things. And then that was the end of it. I didn't get a second round, right? So this time I was less keen on waiting it out. Saw this perfect opportunity, and I was like, let's cast some sexy fireball. And I'm just gonna say it was sexy. It felt fantastic. There was a bunch of people sitting in a row, and I got to just spam them with a mass fireball.
Now tell me, what's the damage area on a fireball? Is it like a line? Is it a cube? Is it like spherical?
Yeah.
What's the damage range look like?
So this was a big choice for me. Now, I would say historically, fireball was like the classic 3rd level spell that you get when you hit level 5 as a mage, or as a wizard, sorry. And I have no big history with it, but I read all about it. I looked into it, and I was like, actually, this is really cool. And then, I was like, well, there's also lightning bolt. Now, lightning bolt gives you the same damage, but the area of effect is a little bit different. So you get this 20-foot radius on fireball. So when it lands, you get this 20-foot sphere, right? Which is fantastic, because if you cast it in the middle of a bunch of blokes, you get this 40-foot diameter that people will get wrecked. And the spell instructions actually tell you that it will go around corners and it will just obliterate things, which is fantastic. That's what else do you want, right? You want to cast big, sexy, critical fireballs. That is pretty much what you want to do as an evocation wizard. The other part, though, for Lightning Bolt, though, is that Lightning Bolt will cast 5 foot wide a beam that goes for 100 feet in front of you, which is just insane. So if you get into some dark, dank corridors and you've just got a line of big bads right in front of you, just smashing them with the lightning bolt straight up the corridor, and you'll just take out like 100 foot of big bads, which is amazing. So I ended up settling though on fireball. I couldn't get past it. First time I'm running a wizard, I've got to kind of enjoy this tradition, enjoy this rite of passage of casting our first fireball. And I think that I absolutely nailed it, because not only did I hit a bunch of people, and some of them took some significant damage, I even killed a couple as well.
You really did. That was like see one fell swoop and knocked down half the army.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. And it felt good. It felt good.
A quick tangent question on
Yeah.
bolts.
Sure.
Let's say you've got 3 guys in a row. Is it going to hit all 3, or does it stop at the first one? Is that clear?
No, it's 100 foot. It's going straight through, and it's going to continue. Yeah. So it's almost a bit like a chain lightning. Super Dan's around. If he's still in the chat, he'll be able to confirm for us. Dan is an absolute legend of the rules and understanding what's going on. So, but my understanding is that you get that, similarly to getting your 40-foot radius, 40-foot diameter, 20-foot radius on the fireball, you get that 100-foot straight line of hitting everything in front of it.
Pretty amazing. Yeah. The guys were facing pretty much in a straight line.
Yeah.
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 So we had a straight line spell, or a spherical spell.
Yeah.
Hitting guys in a straight line. What's the thinking?
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, I never took lightning bolt into my spell book, so it wasn't prepared, which means I couldn't cast it. So, if we continue, there's a very likely chance that lightning bolt will get put in, just purely because of that fact that if we end up in some dank bunkers, the idea that I can just smash the entire corridor of people is going to be super helpful. Yep. Especially if I start to combine it with some things like minor illusion. So, minor illusion, put up a wall. Some guy comes around a corner, tells everyone to keep going. They turn around the corner, walking away from us as the entire party walks down the corridor away from us. Just lightning bolt to the back from behind the minor illusion of a wall that they never knew was there. Which I think is just going to be an absolute heap of fun. Just those sort of little extra pieces. It
does sound pretty awesome. When Zim decided to cast this massive fireball and destroy half a village, or just a house, was do you think Zim knew that there was going to be a whole lot of extra damage beyond just the orcs?
Yeah, no. I would start with no. In the heat of battle, 8 orcs appear in front of you. Zim was dead set keen. So Zim is my forest gnome wizard, just recently hit level 5 and acquired this beautiful fireball spell. He was super keen to take them down. That was his main focus. If those 8 continue on to the city, what damage will they do? Well, I'm not keen to find out.
Yeah, fair enough. So fireball it was. And I think
just to be clear, sexy fireball.
Sexy fireball
it was. A sexy fireball.
With I think 3 or 4 of the guys taken out in that one action, which is pretty awesome.
I don't think they died, but they took significant amount of damage, and they were close to bloodied. I think they died on the next round.
Yeah, and we saw the house we were in the alley next to start to catch on fire, which is interesting. I don't think any of us really paid too much attention to that, apart from, okay, if it carries on, there's going to be fire next to us, we should move. That was what was running through Ren's head, move out the way. Although I didn't feel like everyone was thinking about their own safety at this point.
No. And I think different people acted in different ways. So we saw Bear disappeared to the other side of the alley, I think, at one point. Not really worried about the fire. I think he was thinking more strategic. And then we also saw somebody just charge into the house where the fire was. So Red decided to go check it out and bust down the door and headed inside and proceeded to promptly fall over, which is valiant, but
fitting for Red.
It was valiant.
We'll come back to that in a second. When I saw Bear charge across the other side, I was a little bit spewing because I also was trying to line up a spell which had a 20-foot radius. I was trying to find the right kind of point that would get all those guys and none of us. And then he went over in the middle of the whole bloody thing and wrecked it. Wrecked it for everyone. On your bed. Just so selfish.
That's selfish, Bear, I'll tell you.
So, yeah, that happened.
And I think it's interesting that we've suddenly got access, like we said the other week, level 5 has kind of amped everything up, right? 3rd level spells, the melee Bear getting access to a second attack. These sort of things are going to change what it looks like for us and really does amp things up quite a bit as we go forward. And I think we need to, for a while there, I think we had a good synergy around what we should be doing as a group, where we should be attacking from, how we should be attacking. And I think we've not lost that synergy, but we definitely need to realign with all these new capabilities that we have, right? So as a wizard, spell sculpting, fantastic. I can keep a couple of people out of danger. When I cast my spells, I can identify a couple of locations that won't be affected by the damage. However, I can't do that for everyone in all the spots, and so we need to be a little bit more aligned with, right, well, how do I cast haste on somebody and then get them into the right position, but then be able to spell sculpt them? And that's just purely from the wizard point of view, right? As we start going into the clerics and then the rangers, and then we bring in, the paladin, like everyone's got these new things we need to be aware of to kind of understand how the party plays. And to be clear, not like trying to bring in any metadata, like metagaming pigeons, right? Not trying to be like we should all know everything about everyone, but just that idea that as we're playing, we're going to be learning more and more about people and the new abilities they've developed.
That's an interesting point, actually. Like, as we all level up each time, how do you discover what someone else can do without metagaming? Is it, and whilst we're trying to strategize a particular encounter?
Yeah.
Right, because we were definitely caught off guard in this situation, and there was no time to try and plan things out. It was just hide, attack, kill, oh shit, damage.
Yeah. And look, I think that's one of the things that will start to happen, right? Like, now we know sexy fireball's a thing. It's kind of something that we have to kind of work out. When's it happening, right? And I mean, that's just my point of view. The more skirmishes we get into, the more the boys spend in the war room, the training room that they have back at the Winchester. Right, they're going to get more and more aligned to what they can do. The more the casters kind of talk about their spells. So Soraya, with her capabilities of being able to cast as well, right? The more I know if she's about to cast Fireball, well, is it mandatory that I line it up, or is it better that she's got access to it and I've got something else lined up that I can do? Having the ability to cast haste, for instance, if I've got a couple of extra attacks every round, is that going to be better than me casting a single fireball? And do I start focusing that if she's going to be bringing in fireballs? So this is one of those, thinking about group composition, how we start to work together, and what are the big bads? Are they going to be immune to fire damage? Because that would suck if you've got a bunch of people casting fireballs to somebody who's immune to fire damage. Now, we don't know that.
Fireball, yeah.
Yeah, we don't know that. But I mean, as we progress, that's one of the things that kind of comes into it, right?
Yeah, and it's going to get more and more complex as these abilities get more and more impressive, I guess.
Yeah.
And take up a bigger radius and bigger range, and wipe out more people. Speaking of wiping out people, this sexy fireball is also the fireball of doom for a family of 3. Unbeknownst to us, we're trying to deal with the orc invasion.
Yeah. So it's been a fireball of doom, a sexy fireball of doom, for 3 individuals. So we know nothing about them. And Zim. So from Zim's point of view, he helps stop 8 orcs from attacking and ransacking the city. Whether that's a big part of the attack or a small part, 8 people, 8 orcs is a lot. So from his point of mind, especially as a lawful neutral, he's keeping in line with he protected. He did his job to stop the bad guys, and collateral damage that may occur, well, that's neither good nor bad. It's, it wasn't the intent, but at the same time, we just don't know anything about them. So I think it'd be interesting this week as the kind of, if there's a bit of backstory that comes out of the family, or if we find out a little bit more about them, that'll be keen to understand that a bit more.
Really interesting point. You mentioned there, you said lawful neutral. And we're getting into this like moral, ethical territory.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how everybody plays their alignment.
Yeah, I think the alignments. Well, I think alignments will come out a little bit this time, right? Like, especially in this playthrough. So it'll be interesting to see the different alignments that the different characters have. And so, again, for anyone who's not hugely into D&D, each of the characters have this kind of alignment, right? You can be the sort of person who's, very lawful good. So they're following the law and they're trying to be morally good. You get that all the way down to kind of people in the middle who are kind of neutral, who aren't really good or bad either way, all the way down to people who are chaotic evil, who are the kind of, other end of the spectrum, who are out to do bad things and cause chaos. Now, that's a bit of a hack of an explanations of the alignments, but that idea that your character has an alignment kind of helps you play through and understand how your character might react as you're playing the game and things come up. And I think it's cool that we kind of discuss these and put them on our character sheets and help the DM understand how we should be reacting.
Who polices this? This is not something which you can really control because it's so subjective.
So I mean, this all comes back to the Demon Doom, right? So he's the one with the ability to look at those details, and then if somebody plays to their character, he's got the opportunity to give him a high five or give him the moral well done, or be able to, the opposite of that being if somebody's says that they're all the way up on the lawful good, but they're not acting like that, that can be detrimental to their character, or they may have disadvantage at some point in the future, or something that they're after may not work in the same way. I think you also see it coming out a little bit with people who have a deity, and they don't then follow the details of their deity that they're following. As they start to break away from that character and that character's line, that then has consequences inside of that character's story. So you may see that somebody's following a particular deity and then breaks away from the rules or the way in which they're meant to follow that deity. Well, then that person then might see that the next time they call on the deity just says no, right? And, that's part of the process of how people respond to your character based on one of those things about your character being your moral standing.
Let's talk about this deity and connecting with such. Because Red dashed into the burning house, quickly tripped over, and I think he had to get brought back himself. I think, right? Did you charge? Did Zim charge?
So I charged on in there in my little forest gnome legs of all of 2 foot something. Charged on in after Red, who's a mammoth hulking unit, and fed him my health potion to bring him back up.
Yeah.
And so, that valiant kind of charging in to save and check if there was anyone in there. And then once he was up, he then took it upon himself to try and save the inhabitants. Zim kind of just did the Frozo, just kind of ice bolt everything that was on fire as he kind of walked in. He's not there to he's not there to kind of survive through the death and the destruction. He's more just interested in solving the small issue. Yeah.
But you bring in, you brought Red back up after he almost killed himself. He was on death saves. That was interesting, like straight away.
It was.
But you brought him up. You froze everything. Zim froze everything. We had either crispy or suffocated. We don't quite know yet.
Pan fried.
Maybe deep fried.
Fried.
Parents and a small baby girl.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think if I remember
so, I
correctly,
believe there's 2 adults and a child.
2 adults and a child.
Sorry,
my bad.
2 adults and a child.
Red tried to call upon his deity for support and got nothing. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Do you think this is a sign of him breaking out of alignment with
No, I mostly think that it was just a roll of the dice. Right, the deity's not going to jump in at every single opportunity. It was trying to save, 2 randoms or 3 randoms, and I think that opportunity for the deity to stand in. Well, maybe you said this isn't it. Maybe let's say towards the end of the campaign when they really need me, that's when I'll pop in and say hello.
I hope so. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out for sure.
Yeah.
But so
I think Red will feel a little bit hurt that the deity didn't show up though when he called out. It was a time of need. This was didn't just ask if he could, get a bit of a hot tip on a lucky horse running around the races or anything in Waterdeep. He was, life and death matter. And he'll definitely be a little bit hurt by that, I think, and they will see that play out in his character over the next few sessions. And I'm keen to see how that affects his relationship or whether or not it's still as strong with his deity.
Yeah, it'll absolutely have an impact. As does he then hold him accountable or it accountable, or blame it for not turning up and saving the day? Because Red ended up getting 2 people back in some state.
Yeah, used his new recently acquired spell after leveling up, Revivify, and
it's a mouthful.
which is an expensive spell, a very expensive spell. It's a couple of 100 gold pieces per hit. To be able to have a diamond that's quite expensive to be able to use as the consumable for that spell, which is, a bit of cash that he then spent on this child, and he had a pretty tough choice. Let's be honest. He had to choose one adult and the child, so he only could bring two people back. And he had to choose an adult and a child, which is pretty tough.
It really was, and it was a bit of a interesting move of DM of Doom's part to force that choice upon him, and see how it all played out. Yeah. Did having seen that, having Zim being in the room and witnessing all that, no guilt? Is it just get on with it? This is just how it is.
No, so let's be clear. Like Dave sitting at home watching, potentially two adults and a kid, innocent bystanders potentially get killed. Not excited, that's hit pretty hard, but the wizard who took down a significant chunk of a garrison of orcs running around the city causing death and destruction, untold potential damage could have come from that, and sadly, but not guilty, doesn't feel that guilt over the potential death of this father.
I think as interesting as it's going to be to see how Red plays out with this deity, it's going to be just as interesting to see how Zim and Red get along after this.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. It's going to be tense.
So Zim's pretty neutral about it all. He's not really affected. He's, sad that there's some death happening, but he's no guilt. Whereas Red has got a fairly strong emotional response that we saw. So I'm super keen to see how Dan plays this out, and I think it's going to be a good bit of RP between the characters.
Yep, it's going to be really fun to see how it all plays out.
And this is the other bit. I'm keen to see how the DM of Doom plays it out as well from his point of view, because he's got a lot of control of what's happening here. As we find for the next sort of thing that we've been doing was we jumped on and grabbed this father or this male who was still dead and being revived at all, and we carried him. Red picked him up, threw him over the shoulders, fireman style, and carried him towards the closest temple to try and call on a deity at a temple to bring him back. So, going to be interesting to see when we land at this temple what the outcome of the adult is, if there's any backlash, how Zim and Red play out, or if it all fizzles into nothing, we go kill dudes and get another eye stone from somewhere.
Just get the cash. Cash solves everything.
Cash solves everything.
So, let's back up a second. Yeah. The disappearing orc leader. You guys dealt with No, it was before you guys ran in and dealt with the incinerated family.
Red disappeared inside. Which is why he then went on to death saves while the rest of the group finished off the remaining orcs and had a shot at the leader, who turned into a pile of black tar goo stuff and disappeared.
He did, not without speaking to Ren. And
yes.
It was a bit of a dick move, if I can't say it any other way, just to mock Ren in such a way, and then just poof up, literally up and disappear like a fart in the wind. Just gone.
Just gone. And that would have been 100% tough on Ren, just seeing this issue of potentially, hey, here's an answer. Oh, it's nothing. Actually, something gets something, and then suddenly it's snapped away again.
Oh, mate, she's ropeable. She's fuming right now after that event, and ready to go and track down follow the orcs, go and find those axe beaks and find out what the hell is going on here, because we'll talk about it later. But there's an optional future for Winchester Shield now that the city's a bit unstable.
Yeah. I mean, this is an interesting little power vacuum that's developed after the idea that we killed a major crime boss that was probably not meant to be dead yet.
It's going to be very interesting.
I will remember that picture of the DM of Doom, Robin's face and heart and soul just falling out of his body when his big bad died multiple sessions early.
It's all coming back to haunt us now, though, for sure.
Oh, yeah, massively. He just, as soon as that session ended, he got the red pen out, right? Let's just screw these dudes over. Yeah. No, I'm absolutely loving the kind of pivot that we've taken. And I think that's one of the cool things, right? Like, we're not reading a book here. It is not a prescribed, you do this, then you must do this. It's like, hey, look, there's 5 options in front of you. And depending on how each of them play out, it's going to have a real consequence.
It really is. It's going to be consequences for us as a party unit, consequences for the whole city, consequences for everything. Yeah. Shall we talk a little bit more meta and have a chat through dungeon mastering from 2 players' perspectives?
Ooh, a little bit meta. Let's do it.
So, one of the questions that came in from Super Dan himself was, I'm going to throw this to you, Dave.
Yeah, let's see.
As a player, how do you reckon? How would you deal with the sometimes darker themes that come up in D&D that can pop up? Don't always. They can.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things. It's one of those times where you kind of put yourself into the story, right? Like, what will my character, react to this? You can always have that kind of a dick move of your characters being a jerk and saying like, yeah, that's just what my character would do. But I think that's one of the cool things is you get to be in complete control of this character's words, of everything they do. Do they sit at the table and have a drink? Do they compel Jewel, the poor reporter who's just walked through the door? And I think that when the dark themes come through, you can take a moment to think about what your theme is throughout this game that you're playing, right? Are you a dark, mysterious character who could be, thoroughly connected to it? Or are you somebody with the light and you want to, you're completely hurt by these dark themes or whatever it happens to be, and you're destined, your destiny is to solve some major problem. And I think that idea that, like me, I sit at home going, well, I don't want any collateral damage. But at the same time, there's this dark idea that Zim's potentially responsible for the death of 3 people and the permanent death of only one of them. But still, some poor innocent could be dead because of him casting a fireball, as sexy as it was.
So I completely understand that. What do you say when, let's say, take that situation where there's 3 crispy people, the DM in that kind of situation can get into all sorts of gory detail on look, appearance, or smell, or even how they're situated might have been unsavory. It can get pretty gnarly. At what point does the character stop and the player step in and say, you know what, that's crossed the line?
Yeah, good ponder. I think that comes down a little bit to the idea of what sort of session you're running, right? Like, we have an adult content filter. There's a bit of swearing. We're drinking beer. We're having a bit of fun. And I think that idea that we're having a bit of fun, there can be a little bit of darkness, but the idea we're not going too deep kind of sets that tone, right? Whereas you could be running like a full-on horror theme, right? You could be getting into the gory details of everything, and even just the basics of walking into the dungeon of your own house could be this filled with gore and goo and the most horrible, disgusting things ever. And yet that's the theme for that session, totally fine. And if that's what it is, that's what it is. I think that it's okay to have a line where you say this is real and this is not, and the idea that something is happening over here does not morally affect me over there. Again, it depends on what type of theme you're running, right? So the idea that you can have lollipops and unicorns over here for D&D that you can run with your kids, and you can have some dark themes where somebody gets burnt in a house. That's not going to be suitable for everyone. And I think, the idea of chatting about this beforehand, understanding where it's at and what the theme of it, where you're going to go, that's all really important.
Yeah, I've seen 2 different solutions to try, or approaches to try and solve this kind of thing. One, I guess we've loosely touched on in a fun kind of way, is the aspect of carding, like red cards, yellow cards, that kind of thing. I've seen that play out in a particular stream where, and I had to go and research a bit more. It's like, if something's going down a path that you're really not comfortable where it is, as being a player, and it's like, that doesn't strike me as something I want to be privy to, you can just hold up the red card and people can see her on camera and so on, and know that, you know, the story seems to be going in a way that's not comfortable with n number of people. Or the flip of that is the green card. Keep doing that. It's really good. This is a good part of the story. Dig in further. But we're not talking about that kind of happy, fun, lucky times.
And then there's the yellow card, right, where Beowulf's making bad jokes, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Bear gets a few yellow cards, but so that's dealing with things as they come up. I think there's also a potential opportunity for almost like a pre-game agreement. What people
100%.
agree is, you know, where does the line get crossed? What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? And then deal with that such that everyone's in agreement.
Yeah, and I also think that kind of then also when you start to think about your viewers base, right? Like, so as a stream, we're not like the, you know, what you go and see at a Rob Zombie concert, it's going to be different to what you see at a Justin Timberlake concert. And I think if you're somebody who's watching, you would choose, I might go and see one or the other, but, you know, I could see both. But I think I know what I'm going to get when I go to one of these. And I think that the idea that we're really clear with our viewership as well, not just the people on the table, but those who are tuning in, you know, we get some pretty decent numbers for unique views on a Thursday night when we're streaming. There's a legit amount of people out there watching us get into the game, and we want to make sure we're providing them with solid content that's not offensive. And, you know, that offensive issue can be different based on what sort of table we're playing at. Yeah,
100%. 100%. So I think we'll close that one off saying, yeah, there's ways to approach it, but at the end of the day, if it's in character and it fits the story, it's hard to try, unless it's completely vulgar, it's hard to step in and say, you know what, that's a bit too far. You can say it, you can, but it's a matter of playing the story. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Cool. We have another question from our friend Kronos in our Discord. How valuable do you think periods of downtime are in these campaigns, and you know, how do you think how much downtime is the right amount without letting the story just dwindle into nothingness?
Okay, are you talking real life downtime, as in we only stream once a week, or if we leave it for a fortnight, or are you talking side quest, or are you talking, what are you talking?
Downtime, in-game downtime. So let's just say, for example, we had some downtime not long ago, which didn't really last very long, after we came back from smashing Xanathar. We sat in the tavern, there was no next quest to go and jump on straight away. There's more figure it out. There was opportunity, I think, for people to go, you know what, let's give it a day. I need to go and replenish supplies. I need to go and do X, Y, Z, run the errands, so to speak. And that could potentially unlock other side quests, as it were. But I think there's a balance there too, in that if you just leave it too open, depending on how well your players play it, the whole thing can just stagnate.
Yeah, and I think that you're bang on there, right? Like, there's a good opportunity for us to have, you know, moments where we go, okay, what is the opportunity here? We've got, you know, 6 or 7 different backstories. We've got people aligned to different guilds throughout the city. We've got different side things that have come up. Maybe there's another opportunity for us to go and do a small side quest that results in Beowulf feeding somebody some sort of aphrodisiac rotting pumpkin seeds. Who knows, right? And some of that has been some of the great themes and stories and jokes that we've had that have run through this entire thing. And I think that there's definitely an opportunity, but at the same time, you go, okay, well, what is in our current story? If we've got a time frame of 4 days coming up to say something, then logically it doesn't make sense for us to sit around for 2 days and drink bacon and have bacon and eggs and drink ale, right? But I think at various points throughout this, and I think, you know, the next homebrew and whatever the people at home might be playing, there's definitely an opportunity to step away from a define, this is the main story. You know, go and check out the Yawning Portal Tavern and see what's happening there. You know, one of the great things I've seen on something like Critical Role is when there's a battle. Grog gets into one of the arenas and has a fight with somebody, and that's half an episode. And I love the idea that it doesn't have to be purely like sticking to the exact story, but it's like, hey, look, what would a bunch of adventurers do in a city? Yeah, sure, they do some adventuring and working things out, but the drunk adventurers would go and get drunk somewhere at some point, you know, and the magic adventurers would go and seek out some sort of magic at some point, and the sneaky kleptomaniacs would go looking for shiny things, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's definitely got to be part of it, you know.
I think that you're right. I feel like the periods of downtime is where a lot of people's backstory comes up and the character development really happens. Because you can very easily say, I have character, race, class, level, but let's go smash stuff like we do in battle arenas, which is great fun. But the downtime is when you get to understand who those characters are, how they interact, and how they operate. So I think it's incredibly valuable. However,
100%.
Yeah, one of the things I think that downtime is really useful for, you kind of mentioned earlier, is sourcing those extra components you need. Like, for example, if Red needs to go on do another, is it revivify? Revivify? I don't know.
Revivify.
Bit of necromancy. He's got to find a diamond worth a couple of hundred gold.
300.
Right?
Yeah. He's got to cough up a couple hundred gold.
He's got to cough up for
and
gold.
And then then source it.
Exactly. You can't do that while you're on the clock. So, that being the case, has he just spent all these revivifies and now he's done? Because he's not going to have a chance to go and find, a chunky diamond.
I'm not going to lie, while it was a fantastic story RP, part of me was like, I could have used that when I get hit by something and I fall over in a pile.
Or end up somewhere in a dark place you don't want to be.
Yeah, that's it.
Which it brings up another question though, like spell components.
Mm-hmm.
You're a Zimza caster. How closely do you follow the spell components requirements?
Yeah, I So I mean, first time round, I was a little bit interested, and I had a chat to Robin about this, and he kind of said, "Look, I'm not going to nickel and dime you on every single component. If you spend a day in town, you can let me know that you picked up a couple of things, and that's totally fine." So as long as if I've got the funds to pick up a couple of $100 gold diamond piece that I need for a certain spell, then I can go and find that. But I don't think there's value. I don't think there's value in just for something where it's there's a gold expense to it, to just saying, "Oh yeah, I've got it," and going on with it. Like, I think that there's some good story to be able to say, "This is precious. This spell is it's not just a generic spell. There's value to it because it's something that I can't just cast all the time." I've been pretty lucky that a lot of my spells have non-consumed consumables, so I need to have that item, but it doesn't get obliterated when I cast a spell. So that's been really helpful.
That's very handy. One thing I noticed when I was trying to figure out this spike growth spell I've acquired since leveling up.
Yeah, tell me about it. What's your spike growth spell?
In a 20-foot radius, I can just bring up rooted spikes from the ground and cause damage to everyone in that area at the start of every one of their turns. Amazing. However, requires 7 sharpened sticks. Okay? Which is fine. I didn't realize it when I acquired that spell, but I thought, okay, that makes sense. I can easily grab some sticks. Now, if I got to spend time whittling them down to a sharp point, or I just snap it and hope it's a point. Right? And they're all like, because it's very easy to just say, I cast spike growth, boom, done. But I think there's an opportunity there to play the character and make sure you have those things and not cheat.
I think it's I think it's cool. You could just build this as part of the story building out for your character, right? Like, maybe your doggo has a little pouch on his back where you keep your sharpened sticks, and you can cast this spell anytime your doggo's with you. But at the end of the campaign, doggo's not with you in a different room. Suddenly, you can't cast your spell. I think those sort of like little story elements that you can bring into it, just add that extra little bit to it. Just add that realism and add that issue of like, it would be so easy for me to just do X, but I can't, and that kind of brings that realness to the story.
Yeah, 100% agree. And this one thing I wanted to do before Robin just abruptly ended the session was go and collect some sticks off the ground. We're near this burning house. There's got to be some sharp sticks around. So I definitely want to get that sorted out. And,
Maybe your sharpened stick with dead man's blood can damage a vampire even more, or something like that, right?
that sounds pretty impressive. Have to see if that does any extra damage.
Rule of cool. Chat to the demon doing with that.
How good is the rule of cool?
Love it.
Cool. All right. Shall we move on? Any other questions that you've heard through the week?
No, I think we're good there, mate. I think we are good there.
All right. Let's think about what's coming up in session 14 of our Dragonheist campaign.
7:14. So
we have a few different tangents to go on now. I picture this like a decision tree. We've come a long way. It feels like we've navigated pretty well the right path to so far.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Red's run off with some dude trying to bring him back to life, which is not the mission we started on. We have orcs running around, stirring up Ren, not the mission we started on. And we've still got the mission we started on to get on the ship and get the second Eye of the Stone.
So, I mean, I'm excited for these capabilities, right? Like, we've got this immediate issue of Ren has a dead body on his shoulders. So I think we'll probably take care of that pretty quickly. And, that'll have some sort of effect on the party morale, whether we save a dude, whether Red gets upset at Zim, whether Zim does something. It's going to be very interesting to see how that progresses. And yet, at the same time, there is this urgency for us to get down onto the ship to find. We know we're nearby. Is it in 300 feet? Or 1,000 feet? Sorry, is it 1,000 feet or 300
range.
feet? 1,000 feet range for a locator spell. So I mean that is a big part of it, and I think that there's going to be a quick turnaround. Well, I'm hoping there's a quick turnaround for this dead body issue, and then moving on.
Otherwise, we split the party and let Red deal with that, while we go and deal with the stone, the eye.
Yeah, and I love that we know. I love that we know the first rule is don't split the party yet. Like twice
every
an episode. So look, I'm just wondering, maybe we should split the party.
Just to mix it up a little bit, just to stir the pot. So, Red's running off. Your Zim could not care less, but rather do the greater good right now.
Doesn't feel guilty for it.
Mm-hmm.
He sees that there is death and destruction of an innocent. That's not great, but he doesn't feel responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll still follow Red. He'll go and see what's going on with this individual.
Okay, so we'll go and find out what Red wants to do with this guy. This could be multiple hours to sort that shit out.
3-shot, 1-shot.
3-shot, 1-shot. What are the possible places this whole thing could end up? Let's say this guy, alive or dead, that story arc comes back to the main track. We chase down this second eye. We now have 2 of the 3, with a pretty good idea where the third one is. We have an orc army moving in, trying to replace the Xanathar. Are we still just on a mission to save 2 kids? I know Zim isn't big on it.
We're on $1 million, right? We're on $1 million to earn $1 million dragons. The kids sort of came into it somewhere, and Zim's going to be interested. He might pose the question to give you a little bit of a look forward, but Zim might pose the question about the value of saving 3 people and risking $1 million dragons, the dragon cache. And at the same time, what's the value of saving 2 children for 500,000 when you could save, I don't know, 500 children or 1,000 children or 500,000 for that same price? So I think there's some interesting moral things coming out soon.
Yeah, I agree. I am keen, as a player, to go and take on the demon or whatever entity that has these kids, even though there's a lot of fear around it. But we killed a beholder. Well, how much worse could it be? I'm
sure it can get a lot worse. Just saying, I'm sure it can get a lot worse. Robin, this is not a challenge. Jeremy's not challenging Robin.
There's a lot of what Mark can see in Clay's backstory that could be potentially connected to that guy.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see how it works out. But yeah, we could end up. I can't see anything wrong with us being the Winchester Shield, having a pub, and owning a third of the underworld, territory.
Yep. I'd be down for that. Down for that. But I mean, when you start thinking about the underworld is not unicorns and rainbows and being kind to each other and walking Miss Daisy across the dusty road of Underdeep. If we're in Waterdeep and we're a third of the major criminal organization, then where do we weigh up the death and destruction of being a criminal organization versus the safety of innocence?
Exactly.
So I'm keen to see how this plays out.
But also, if people, different backstories are coming to a head, and what do these characters do after that point? Is it all, well, that's tied off, put a bow in that one, let's go run a mob, or is it exits for their next adventure? I don't know. I know Bear's in it just to be a hero. He is
Fresh
now.
Prince of Waterdeep.
Shirts in the merch store.
Love it. Yeah, look, good. I mean, honestly, you can get the Crown Prince of Waterdeep shirt in the merch store tonight. Feel free to order that one. It'll absolutely make Beowulf stay to know that somebody out wearing the Crown Prince of Waterdeep shirt.
So good. We haven't seen. We have seen a bit of Soraya's backstory. I think there's lots more to cover off there, and I feel like there's going to be a bit more of that to come in the near term. I think there's just too many big bad guys that could just end up being the main guy, right? Too many threads that could end up being the theme at the end of the whole campaign.
Yep, I've got this picture in my head of the DM of Doom. Has got like that picture board with all the red strings.
Yes.
And, he's got it all lined up. There's dad things going on. There's mum things going on. There's brother things going on. Right. There's a lot of family backstory. There's caretaker things going on. There's evil forces. There's less evil things and people adventuring and people who are two people at the same time. Not to give it away, but it's been announced that Red has an alter ego. There's so much happening, and I feel like Robin, the DM of Doom, has got this amazing task ahead of him of being able to wind these stories together, to bring it together in a way that's more than just token, but actually has some, enjoyment and playability to it, and some entertainment to it as well.
Oh, DM of Doom does an amazing job to weave all this crap together, and to deal with the curveballs that we throw at him every time. I picture Robin when the Xanathar was killed, just grabbing the module books, going, "Fucking well, that happened." Chuck that out the window and just like, okay, we're winging it now.
Just literally walks over to the window and opens up and just flicks the book in. See you later.
So I think full credit to Robin for tying with that together, and I'm keen to see this. Like we've talked about before, this campaign could go on forever and a day. But
I like the idea that there's this urgency. We've got a time frame. Things are going to happen, and we need to take action before that event occurs. So I think that there's this cool opportunity for us right in front of us to sort of jump on a main storyline and tie a bunch of things into that.
I think it seems like the opportunity is presenting itself for everyone.
Yeah,
right. Lots to consider, lots to look forward to in session 14 and beyond. Irish Dad, thanks for joining us. We're about to wrap up, I think. That's all good. Any other last thoughts, Dave, as we head towards the pointy end?
Look, I just want to know if it's Thursday yet. I love getting together and playing, whether it's a bit of controversy, whether it's good times, whether it's sexy fireballs, or a missed opportunity. I'm super excited for it every week.
Yeah, agreed. Thursdays are the best. I love getting on here and chatting with you guys, chatting with the people on the chat, and just making a good run at it. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Don't forget, there's a lot happening in October. We're trying to raise money for Beyond Blue. Links and things where you can contribute will be coming to you shortly via our Facebook and socials. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ragingrolls. Get everything else from ragingrolls.com. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, all the things, everything you do.
All the good things.
With Raging Rolls, we pass it on to Beyond Blue. Yeah, mate. That's it.
All right.
We'll leave it
Well,
there.
thanks, buddy. I'll catch you in a
Dave.
few days.
It's been good to chat. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday.
See ya.